Hey guys, welcome back to Barry's Corner. It's Emily here, and today I'm going to be showing you guys all the books that I read in March. In March, I read 6 books, which is a step down from January and February. If you watched my last 2 wrap-ups, I did read around 9 to 10 books each month. And this month I only read 6 books. However, last year I read 4 to 5 books each month. So it is a step up from last year. Look at me, I'm improving in some ways. I don't know. Honestly, I enjoyed most of the books that I read this month, and that is all that matters. And I think that's the motto I'm going to live by, like this last month in March and also in April, because I'm going to be busy. I'm going to be focusing on my studies, and books are just going to be my escape. And I'm just going to be focusing on that, not the amount of books that I am consuming. So before I show you the books that I read, please subscribe, please comment down below, and like this video. All of my social links are down in the description box below, as well as my Amazon wishlist if you would like to gift me a book. Now let's get on into the video. The first book I read in March was The Hating Game by Sally Thorne. This is a reread for me, or was a reread for me. I read this on audiobook in like February of 2020, and I absolutely loved it. It was so good. But I was afraid that I just wouldn't love it as much if I read it physically, or I don't know if I wouldn't love it as much as the first time I read it. But every single person just keeps raving about this book, and I was like, I want to own it physically. I want to own it physically. I want to reread it, see if I love it as much as the first time. So I did. I bought it from Barnes & Nobles, and I reread it. And guys, I loved it even more than I did the first time. It was so good. I cannot tell you how much I absolutely adore this book. If you don't know what this book is about, it is about a girl named Lucy and a guy named Joshua, and they are executive assistants to co-CEOs of a publishing company. They were rival publishing companies, but there was an economic crisis, and they had to join together. So basically Lucy and Joshua hate each other, but they sit across from each other every single day, and they play this hating game where it's basically like an ego boost to see, or it's like make the other one cry, laugh, smile, anything at all. But one day a promotion is going up, and the hating game kind of gets in the way, but this hating game kind of forms a little love story. So it's just pure hate to love, and it's so good. It's so good. Guys, I cannot tell you how much, like, the hype over this book is so deserving. This book deserves the hype it gets, and I will be the one to spread the hype because I gave it a 5 out of 5 stars. I love this book so much. Joshua is just just a perfect guy. Why is Joshua so perfect? He's the perfect book boyfriend you could just ever have. Lucy is so cute and sassy, and she just lifts up. She owns who she is, and they do have character development, but they stay true to who they are as a person. Like, they don't fully change, if that makes sense. Like, they don't compromise who they are for the other person, but they do, like, change their perspectives, if that makes sense. And I really, really love that. And it's so good. I love this book so freaking much. I think no matter how old I get, this will always be one of my favorites. This truly is one of my favorite books of all freaking time. I'm just telling you guys, if you've never picked up The Hating Game, please pick it up. If this is on your TBR and you're just waiting to read it, it's just never been the right time, pick it up right now. It's so good, and I promise you that it will be your favorite. Like, it's just so good. The next book I read was Sadie by Courtney Summers. This was a buddy read with Christine from the Roomies Digest. I will leave her channel that she shares with the beautiful Monique down in the description box below, so definitely go check her out. But this book, I think me and Christine can both agree, it was so good. It was so freaking good. I loved this book so much. Please bear with me while I try to explain what this book is about. It's about a girl named Sadie, and she lives in a rural, I'm so sorry, I can never say this word. in a rural area. Basically she lives in a trailer. Her mom is a drug addict, and she feels like she's all alone until basically her sister is born. Her sister is her life, and one day her sister gets murdered. So it follows Sadie's perspective with her trying to find her sister's murderer, and then it switches perspective into a man in a podcast telling the story of him trying to find Sadie because Sadie has gone missing. So it was so good. Everybody calls this book a thriller. I see it more as a mystery, and although thrillers and mysteries kind of go together, I do see the thriller aspect, but it does lean more towards a mystery. I loved this book. It was so good. I think the main thing that I truly did love about this book was the heavy topic that it speaks on. Trigger warning towards pedophilia, child pornography. It doesn't get into descriptive, vulgar situations, I guess, because it is a YA. Because every single time somebody reads this book, they're like, is this a YA? Because it deals with a very, very heavy topic. But it is a YA, and I love the heavy topic that it speaks on because everybody needs to know this. Maddie, which is her little sister that was most likely raped and killed, was 13 years old when this man came for her. Girls, this happens to little girls every single day, and YA young adults, this is a kind of a taboo topic that nobody really speaks about, especially in books, and it should be spoken about. And I think that is one of the main reasons that I really, really enjoyed this book. I really like seeing Sadie going out on adventures, and I really, really, really enjoyed the podcast element. I do think if I reread this book, I would listen to it on audiobook because everybody says it's so amazing on audiobook, and I just didn't get the chance to listen to it. But I definitely think I'll pick it up on audiobook next. The one thing I do see how people could give it a 4 stars, because a lot of the other rating that I see people give it is a 4 stars, because I do think that there could be a little bit more of some character development. But at the time that I was reading it, it just hit different. It was so good. It was just right for what I wanted at the moment, and I think Christine could agree. Hopefully I did this book some justice with explaining it to you. I hope that you guys pick this up. And yeah, I really enjoyed this. 5 out of 5 stars. I really liked it. The next book is Prom Prejudice by Elizabeth Eulberg. This is a very, very young retelling, YA retelling of Pride and Prejudice. And it follows Lizzie Bennet and her story of being a scholarship student at a boarding school called Longbourn Academy, which is an all-girls boarding school, where on the other side of campus is a boys boarding school called Pemberley Academy, or just Pemberley, I don't know. And basically at her school, they all hate scholarship students, and they harass her and bully her, and she really hates it there, but the only reason she stays is because she really, really likes the teacher, because she's there for classical piano and she can get really good opportunities with this teacher. And also her roommate called Jane is her best friend. She loves her to pieces, and so she stays because of her. And so Jane gets a boyfriend called Charles who goes to Pemberley, and then Charles' best friend Darcy she meets and is like, oh, he's just like everybody else. He hates scholarship students. And so it's kind of like a hate to love romance. And yes, I liked this book. I enjoy this book. I do like this book. I just wish it was like the first time I read it. The first time I read this was my favorite book. I loved this so much. It was so good. It was everything I ever wanted. But now, since I read it so much when I was younger, I got this in middle school, and in middle school, this was everything I ever wanted and more. But now, I just wish it was like the first time I was reading it again. Because I put so much distance between myself and this book, so it could be like the first time. I think it's been 1.5 years since I read this, so I could forget most of everything that happened. But since the plot is so simple, because it is a very young YA, it goes to a very young YA audience. It's just, I can guess the plot. I know what's going to happen. It doesn't keep me entertained very long. It's very easy read. And I do enjoy it, but I feel like at my age, it's a very one and done type of book. And since I've already read it a bajillion times, I'm already done with it. So I did give this a 3.5 stars. It's a good plot, but it's very simple, and I've already read it a bazillion times. And I think I would give everything to just read it for the first time again. So I'm kind of disappointed, but I don't know. So I wish I could give you, I don't know, more on this book. But it was fine. It was good. I don't know. Now on to the disappointing read for the month. Alice's Adventures in Wonderland by Lewis Carroll. I did not like this book. I gave this a 2 out of 5 stars, and I truly cannot comprehend how this is Haley from Haley in Bookland's favorite book. Am I missing something? I truly don't get it. If you don't know what this book is about, it's about a girl named Alice, and she's struggling to find her place in adulthood, and to be confident in herself. So she falls asleep with this thought, and she sees a rabbit falling into a rabbit hole, and she follows him, falls into that rabbit hole herself, and then goes to the Wonderland, the world Wonderland. I like the themes in this book. I like how she finds confidence in herself. I like the metaphors. I like the prose. I like a lot of things in this book. Not a lot. I like the personification. I do like the imagery in this novel. I think it's so cool, especially since this is a children's novel, but a lot of the other things I don't like. Lewis Carroll is an adult male, and I find his fascination with children a little bit weird. Him writing a young female child, I just found his writing to be a little bit too quirky, like he was trying too hard, and I was like, let's not do that. Sometimes he was speaking about something, and then the chapter would end, and then another chapter would start, but it started in a completely different place, and I was like, why did you do that? Like, yes, the genre of this is nonsensical, so it's not supposed to make sense, but why would you start off in a completely different place? Also, I did watch the movie before I watched this book. Read this book. And so, she goes down the rabbit hole, and she's locked in this place with a bunch of doors that she cannot get out, and she wants to get into this garden. That makes sense, correct? She eats a thing to grow big, drink, and whatever, grow small, whatever. But in the book, she grows because she can't get out. She wants to go through this door. But she meets the Hatter. She meets all these characters, the Cheshire Cat, before she leaves. She never gets out of that room until she meets the Queen. And I'm like, what was the point of you growing small and big if you weren't technically trapped in the room? Because technically all of Wonderland was technically in the room. It did not make sense. So, yes, it's nonsensical, but, it's supposed to make at least a little bit of sense. Do you know what I mean? I don't know. I did not like it. If you want to read something like Alice in Wonderland that is nonsensical but still so freaking good, read Furthermore by Tahad Mafi. 5 out of 5 stars. So freaking good. Pure genius. Love it so much. Read that book. Other than that, 2 out of 5 stars. Didn't like it. The second to last book that I read was They Both Die at the End by Adam Silvera. This was a buddy read with a girl, not on BookTube or Bookstagram, but in my own personal life, which is surprising because I didn't know she read. So I think we're going to be doing some buddy reads from now on, which is very, very exciting. But this book, I have a little bit of mixed emotions on, which I'll get to in a minute. But first, let me tell you what it's about. It's about 2 guys, Rufus and Mateo, and in their world, they have a thing called Deathcast, where on the day that you die, they give you a call, and they're like, hey, in the next 24 hours, you are going to die. We don't know when or how, but, you're going to die. And so both Rufus and Mateo, they download the Last Friend app, I believe, and they match up, and they spend their last day together. And the first half of the book, I didn't really like it. I felt the writing was very young, and I felt the character, specifically Mateo, was being annoying. Wasn't my thing in the first half of the book. It really wasn't. But in the last half of the book, I liked it. I liked their friendship. I liked their romance. I thought it was really, really cute. I really liked the representation in this book. Both of the characters in this novel are Hispanic. One is Puerto Rican, one is Cuban. I'm Puerto Rican, so I appreciated that. Also, Adam Silvera himself is Hispanic, so we love the representation. We love the diversity. But the first time I read this, I wished it was a novel more on friendship than on relationship, because it caught me by surprise when they got together at the end. And reading it back, I was paying more attention to the subtle hints, and I saw the slow progression of their romance a little bit more, but I can't agree with my past self that the hints were very, very subtle. Adam Silvera, please just give us a little bit more. Give us a little bit more, because I know you don't want to be too insta-lovey, but you were barely giving us anything. So I just wish there was a little bit more hints, or just that were noticeable, of their romance. But overall, I gave this book a 4 stars. It did surprise me, because in the beginning, I truly just was so annoyed. It was a little bit young for me. but it caught me by surprise at the end how much I enjoyed it. And I think his writing at the end really like hit me in the feels. Like Mateo, when he died, with his friend was like it was so sad. It was just, oh my gosh, it was just okay. I'm gonna move on to the next book. Now, the last book I read was Shadow and Bone by Leigh Bardugo. I did make a reading vlog about this, so subscribe, because I think it's going to be the next video up, so I definitely want you guys to watch that video when that comes out. But if you don't know what this book is about, it is about a girl named Alina Starkov, and she lives in a world full of Grishas, which are basically humans but with magical powers, and she also lives in a world with the Shadowfold, which is this big space, which is full, like, darkness. Oh my goodness, that's a horrible way to describe it. But basically, nobody really goes in it because once you really go through, there are these shadow creatures called Volcras, which basically attack you and kill you. But she's in the military, and they hand-selected her and a bunch of other people to go through the Shadowfold to get to the other side, and she gets attacked while she's going through, and she bursts into a ball of light, revealing that she is a Grisha herself, and actually is a sun summoner, which is very, very rare, and she might be the only one to be able to destroy the Shadowfold, but first she has to master her powers. I read this book. I was really enjoying it because this was a reread, and the first time it just wasn't it. It wasn't it the first time. I really didn't like it the first time around. It was so bad. I'm not gonna lie. And I don't know if it was because my expectations were on the floor when I went in to read this book, but this was so good the second time around. I forgot everything. It was so forgettable. But when I went in, I think it was just a perfect escape, and like it was just so perfect for the time that I was reading it. Every single time I picked this up, it was so fast and fun to read. I do think this book was lacking action and also lacking a little bit of character development, but it was fun and it was fast. The whole time I thought I was going to give it a 4 stars. However, the ending, I felt at the end, Leigh Bardugo was like, wow, we really were lacking action in this book, so let me sprinkle it in at the end, and just how she wrote the action just didn't mesh well with me, and I didn't appreciate that, so I ended up giving it a 3.5 stars, but I think next month I'm going to be reading the last 2 books in the series. Go watch my April TBR, by the way. And so let me see if I like those books a little bit better, and I ended up giving this book a 3.5 stars. So those were all the books that I read in March. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I enjoyed most of the books that I read in March, and I hope that you guys enjoyed most of the books that you read in March as well. Please subscribe, please comment down below, do whatever you want to do, and goodbye!